right now.
Well,
And it was
And instead.
because we were all discussing it out front. So everybody discussed and said, oh yeah, they need an SRU. And so, yeah,
Call this meeting of the Fremont County Board of Commissioners to order. Would you please rise for the invocation to be offered by Joe Garkovich, pastor of First Christian Church in Canyon City. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let us pray. God of creation, we thank you for another day. As this group gathers to do this important work, we pray that you would grant them wisdom, courage, and compassion in all their considerations. Amen.
Amen.
And please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Commissioner Norden,
Present.
Commissioner Payne,
Present.
Commissioner Bell,
Present.
County Clerk Barr, absent. County Attorney Jackson,
Present.
County Manager Bryant,
Present.
Planning and Zoning Director Cook.
present.
Have the agenda before you. Any changes to today's agenda?
I am unaware of any changes today, Mr. Chair. I move to approve today's agenda.
Second. Motion and a second to approve today's agenda is presented. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Norden,
Aye.
motion carries.
Have the consent agenda before you. There are no public hearings being scheduled on the consent agenda. Any questions or comments?
Seeing none, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Norden,
Aye.
motion carries.
Staff and elected officials reports. We have a report from Sonny Bryant. Which do you want to start with?
I'll do the quick manager's report, then I'll do sales and use tax.
Okay,
So.
very good.
All right, so a few quick items. As you all know, we are trying to finalize the budget process, so that's taken up a lot of time between myself and the commissioners and all of the departments that have been working very hard to get everything pulled together. So we'll have the public hearing today, and then we're hoping to get everything finalized and the budget will be adopted. We're going to set a special meeting for December 20th, and so we'll adopt the budget at that time along with certifying all of the mill levies. The commissioners and I met on Monday, November 14th with the City of Florence representatives, so we do that monthly, and it's a good way for us to kind of catch up with each other's issues and things that we have going on. On Wednesday, November 16th, Commissioner Norden, Commissioner-elect McFall, and myself attended the Weed Board meeting, and Jana Rapetti, our director over there, presented her annual report, so we kind of got a shot of what she's done throughout the year and how busy their department has been. And then on Thursday, the 17th of November, I attended the Penrose Chamber of Commerce, so it's a good way to get out in the Penrose community and see what all's happening out there. And then just a quick note, and one of the other commissioners may say this, but next week we're going to be attending the Colorado Counties Incorporated Conference. So if you're looking for one of us, that we may be out of the office during those Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to attend conference up in Colorado Springs. And that's all I have for that piece.
Okay.
Going
you.
into the, any questions or
No.
anything? Okay. Going into the sales and use tax report. For the retail sales tax collections in the month of September, we received $413,124, which is up $22,715 from September of last year. Year to date, we are up $147,344. The auto use tax collections in the month of October, we received $93,719, which is down $6,484 from October of last year. Year to date, we are up $40,832. The construction use tax collections in the month of October, we received $16,203, which is down $11,063 from October of last year. Year to date, we are up $7,486. And the lodging tax, here's our big payment that we've all been hoping would come. In the month of September, we received $82,296, which year to date we're at $172,000, which is up about $10,000 from last year. So that's coming in very well. The sheriff retail sales tax collections in the month of September came in at $275,416, which is up $15,144 from last year. And year to date, we're up $98,229. The auto use tax collections for the Sheriff's Department came in at $62,479, which is down $4,323 from from October of last year. And year to date, we're up $27,221. And the construction use tax for the Sheriff's Department came in at $10,802 for the month of October. Year to date, we are down $7,376. For the month of October, we're down $7,376, and year to date, we're up $6,653. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions for Sonny on the sales and use tax report? Sonny, I'd be curious, on your lodging tax report, this may not be a question you can even answer, but some months ago, of course, we had a citizen here complaining that some of the Airbnbs that were advertising short-term rentals were in competition with some of the bed and breakfasts. Do we know if some of these short-term rentals that are advertising on Airbnb and doing these short-term rentals, if they are collecting and paying
So we
lodging
have a little ways to go on that. The assessor's office continues to give me reports in which I continue to give to the state to let them know that we do have people that are operating and trying to get that. So we are working on it. I would say that a lot of them haven't been. Once we go through this process, they either stop doing the Airbnb or they will start paying. It does take a little bit of time because the state is our collection agent, so we basically get on the list for them to come in and do audits of people. So it does take a little bit of time, but we are working between the assessor's office. We've actually been working with the building department as well. When they get notices, planning and zoning, if they have anybody that does that, they give us the information and then we notify the state.
And I think the message that we send to those people who are doing the short-term rentals, less than 30 days, going back to addressing the concerns of the lady who was concerned that it was unfair competition, I think our message is that between your office, due diligence of your office, as well as the assessor looking at how those properties are valued, that we intend to do what we can under Colorado statute to make sure there's a level playing field.
Correct.
So hopefully those people advertising on the Airbnb short-term rentals will understand that and get that message. All right, any other questions for Sonny?
I believe so.
All right, other staff and elected officials reports.
I do have a couple of things this morning I would like to mention. First, the Fremont County Tourism Council will have 2 openings as of January 1st. We're looking to fill. They are currently being served by 2 individuals in our community that are seeking reappointment to that, but we still are open to looking for other individuals who are interested in serving on that. In particular, we no longer have a rafting representative on that board, so if anyone is in the rafting business, we would be interested in talking to you if you're interested in serving on that board. What we need from you is a letter of interest that includes your qualifications and your contact information. The letter, those letters are due to us no later than 12 noon on Thursday, December 16th. A couple of community things I wanted to mention. First, this Friday is our community tree lighting in Depot Park. It's going to start at 5:30, and I hope to see a lot of you there. Secondly, Saturday, December 3rd is the annual Christmas parade here on Main Street in Canyon City. It starts at 7 p.m. And this will be Commissioner Norton's last ride into the sunset, I believe, although it will be dark.
Yeah, it'll be dark.
But nevertheless.
It'll be a sunset.
Yes, there will be, it will, that's exactly right. There will be a sunset
Yes, there
somewhere
will.
at that time.
And I saw a beautiful one the other day crossing Kansas. Is there anything that makes me homesick? Or the sunsets?
The sunsets. And the final note that I have is our building will be closed Thursday, so I wanted to just wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
All right, and indeed, from the entire board and staff of Fremont County, we extend happy Thanksgiving to all of the citizens. Opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners on items that are not on today's agenda. I have one written request from Lisa Hyams from the Canyon City Chamber. Good morning.
Excuse me, and good morning. I've got my snow boots on, so they are a little longer
Well, could
than
you
I
make sure
used
we
to.
deliver some snow then?
Well, I'm hoping. Debbie helped me out a little bit. She talked about a couple of the events that are coming up, and we're very excited this Friday. It's a new location for our second annual Christmas tree lighting, and we're going to be having Christmas carols. Star Country is going to be bringing in the music, so we don't have to sing a cappella, which is wonderful. And, we're going to have hot chocolate provided by Amy's Cafe and treats for everyone, and it's just going to be very festive. We have the chambers, I won't say old, but lovely Christmas village up there at Depot Park, and it's more festive than it was last year, and we hope that every year it gets, excuse me, bigger and better.
And they're not old, they're vintage.
Perfect.
They're vintage.
And then on Saturday, I want to remind everyone that it is Small Business Saturday. We want to support our community by shopping local. The stores in Canyon City are going to be open later. Some of them are going to have refreshments, and it's going to be a festive mood down on Main Street on Saturday. On Sunday, we have our Deck the Halls. Deck the Halls is where we decorate all of the live Christmas trees on Macon Plaza and bring them out onto Main Street and plug them in, and they're lit all season long through New Year's. So we invite the public as well. I really am getting better. We invite the public to come down and help us decorate the trees. We're going to have 18 trees to decorate. Some of them are dedicated to nonprofits in our community. The others are community trees just for the community to decorate. So we want the kids to come down. We're going to have hot cocoa and treats, and we just want to invite everyone to make this a very community event with everyone having a great time. And then, of course, you mentioned the Christmas parade, and I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and it's a wonderful start to our holiday season, so thank you so much.
And the Board of Commissioners did not adopt a formal resolution this year, but we would take note that this Saturday is Small Business Saturday.
Absolutely,
And we would certainly encourage people to take note of that observance and to consider what opportunities you have locally to shop and buy in Fremont County, and it certainly benefits all units of local government that rely on sales taxes that benefits not only merchants but local government as well.
I don't know what the number is now, but I know several years ago that over $70 million was spent out from Fremont County residents outside of Fremont County. The tax dollars from that could do so much. And recently I had a post on Facebook, for those of you follow that, and it talked about everything we do have available. And I did have one of our residents say that I just have to go to Pueblo to shop at Hobby Lobby. Well, we have great craft stores here. We have so much available that people just don't know, and I encourage everyone to get out and really look at what we have available and consider shopping local.
And I've always contended that over the years that if we could reclaim even 10 to 20% of the leakage of sales that go out of this county, we may not have even had to seek tax increases because the revenues would have been here. All right, Clarice Roney.
Good morning.
Thank you. I came here today to ask if you happen to have any extra dollars laying around, or if you find them, if you could allocate those to the sheriff's department so that maybe he can get some more help for the drug problem that we have here. Not only do we have the marijuana problem, we have a bad heroin problem, as does the rest of the country, and it's more than one can keep up with. So we really need help out there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Claire.
Anyone else wish to address the board on items that are not on today's agenda? Yes. George? George, you weren't here 2 weeks ago. We were worried about you.
Good
Anyway,
work, George.
what I want to do is wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, George. You as well.
Thanks, George.
All right. There's no other request to speak from citizens. We will move on to new business. Item number 1 under new business is consideration of resolution number 35 designating certain roads in Fremont County as a section of the Pike Trail in Colorado Pioneer Trail. Harvey Higsden is the president of the Pike National Historic Trail Association, and for years and years, as I've been a county commissioner, I have read the Harvey Higsden emails. I never put a face to those emails, and today we do. Welcome.
Good morning.
The beard normally isn't here,
Okay.
but I'm playing St. Nicholas in Denver on Thursday at the,
All right.
the German Culture
Yes.
Society. The Pike organization started about 8 years ago. Actually, 10 years ago, we became a 501c3 in 2008 as a result of the Santa Fe Trail ending its obligation and Kansas City doing its thing in the Pike Bicentennial in 2006. The organization started simply because nobody was going to go after designation of a national trail for Pike. Most of you have been to various locations. You find Lewis and Clark in many places in the nation, including Astoria. If you've been to Astoria, you see the fort on the Pacific and all that. Well, Pike was a contemporary of Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, and he was sent on 2 expeditions. One, his first one, was up the Mississippi River to tell the British their place on American soil. You pay your tariffs, you don't raise your flag, you raise this flag. This basically was a 15-star flag, by the way. You don't give medals to the Indians to make them think that the British are your people. He also bought the land from the Lakota Sioux, which is now called Minneapolis-St. Paul. His first expedition. His second expedition was to the southwest, and this particular city happens to be the hub of the Southwest expedition. He came in from the east on the Arkansas, and he set up a fort, you know, where 50 makes its bend toward the north past the prison. We believe the fort was down there by the railroad tracks by the pond. Perhaps it was at the Pink House. We don't know. Many historians in this town have told me that they found log foundation work in that area. He decided to go north because at that time, Jefferson would have considered the whole of the Arkansas River Valley to be part of the 1803 Louisiana Purchase. The Spanish, however, would have considered everything south of the Arkansas to be New Spain. So Pike went up, he climbed up through Garden Park, up where 4 Mile Creek makes its western turn to go into South Park, right at Shelf Road there. Okay, we had some of that. He basically was on the Santa Maria Ranch in Hartselle, Colorado, in South Park, and then he came back through Arturo Reservoir and down Trout Creek into the upper Arkansas, discovering the headwaters of the Arkansas River. He thought it was the Red River, which his assignment was to find the headwaters of the Red River, which if you look at a modern map, you'll find the headwaters of the Red River, which is the northern boundary of Texas, actually ends up to be in the center of the panhandle of Texas. He comes back down and he ends up in Mike's Gorge, the Royal Gorge. The Telegraph Gulch, where you'd taken it down before the fire, down to the Colorado River, was renamed, how many years ago, Mike? About 10 years ago, it was renamed by the governor Pike's Gulch. We believe that Pike either climbed up there or he climbed up further upriver on the north side of the river there, and comes back here and he finds him back at the Cannon City Stockade. Then he decides that he's not going to go east. He just came from the west. He went north. He's going to go south into Spanish territory. And that trip goes up Grape Creek. This April, Representative Jim Wilson introduced a bill in the Colorado legislature, which passed unanimously. The governor signed it, and I have a pen that he used on April 15th to allow county commissioners to designate public roads for the purpose of recognizing pioneers in this particular state. My pioneer is Zebulon Montgomery Pike. And you're a pioneer too. So, to give you a little bit broader picture, the Pike organization is now spreading its mission out to include Pike's death in Sack's Harbor, New York, as well as all of his other trips up the Mississippi, out the Ohio, and to Washington, D.C., and up to Lake Ontario and Sack's Harbor. The Congress has chosen not to pass the legislation which would allow feasibility study, which this county has supported in the past, and we have gotten donations from you, different organizations in this state. I think at the Heritage Commission, they have passed over for 8 years now Bennett's legislation to conduct a feasibility study for the Pike National Historic Trail. So we decided, Jim Wilson and Linda Balo, who's retired executive secretary of South Park Heritage area, and Kit Shy is a commissioner in Custer County, to present this bill. It passed unanimously. The governor signed it, and now we come to you to ask for a resolution for the passage of the Pioneer Trail called Pike Trail in Colorado. By the way, the national effort of my organization, Mike and I organization, is 7,500 miles long. And we have a lot on our plate. Sack's Harbor right now is petitioning the state of New York to do similar legislation to what we got here in Colorado and designate Pike's Trail in New York. So there's other things happening outside of Colorado.
And Harvey, what kind of signage will be attached to all of these trails, not only in Fremont but other counties?
The Pike organization has pro bono work from a graphic artist who does roadside signs all over Colorado. She happens to live in Buena Vista, and she's right now working on it. There's what we're looking for is to get the trail in first. That's our big, in the 16 counties that Pike was in. There happens to be a 17th county, and I'll explain that. So that will come later. Perhaps we can share some of the expense. Perhaps the Pike organization can find donors to do so. Normally, the roadside panels that we have, and there's 3 or 4 of them here in this county, are installed by the Canyon City maintenance and things like that. So the cost of installing is inexpensive. The trail that we are asking to go in actually has 2 prongs. One for automobile and one for safety reasons and distance reasons for bike and hikers. So Keith Berry has given us 2 maps. One map, this one is the bike hike. You can see why it's a hub. It goes all over the place. And Canyon City is basically in the middle. There's the automobile one. Obviously, automobile routes take a lot more distance many times than bike hike routes. You can see that the main route for both trails is US 50 through the center of east to west. Pike moved east to west in Fremont County. It stretches from Pueblo County on the east to into Chaffee County in the west. The red line, this is for the auto route, is to go up into Park County and South Park. The state legislature and the law now requires that we be as close to the actual trail as possible. The governor requests that the trail be as continuous as possible. So obviously I'm doing a lot of work with the other counties to make sure that we connect. And then you can see it's in yellow. It's better on a bike hike route. It goes up Grape Creek, well, actually on the county roads. It does go into Temple Canyon, that first blue line at the top, and then it also goes to, I think it's called Bear Landing or Bear Creek or something like that, so that you could see Pike encampments on the way down into Custer County. Some of the blue stuff on the right-hand side has to do with Pike's attempt to climb Pikes Peak. And yes, you can see that blue line on the very right-hand side of the bottom, and we're working on negotiation with Fort Carson for an easement so we can get them as close to Turkey Creek and Little Turkey Creek as possible over there. But your involvement, of course, is that the road happens to be in Fremont County.
Okay, thank you. The resolution that is before us today is resolution number 35, and part of the language in the resolution specifically details every possible route within the county and the city, connecting Pueblo, Teller, Custer counties, and it goes into such great detail that we won't offer to read it at this point, but we certainly would encourage the public to review it at their leisure. All right, and Commissioner Payne, anything you want to add?
No, I worked with Harvey quite a bit on this, and Mike putting this together along with our Heritage Commission, and I guess since midsummer, I think, something like
Yeah,
that.
And Keith Berry.
And
very
Keith Berry was very instrumental in that. So, yeah, so a lot of folks put a lot of time into this, not as much as you two, but we sure appreciate all the time that you put into this. And with that, I would move to approve resolution number 35, a resolution designating certain roads in Fremont County as a section of the Pike Pioneer Trail.
I will second that, just with the note of thank you for all of the hard work that you've done. I think that preserving our heritage is a very important thing, and Pike was a huge part of that through this area. So thank you.
All right, I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 35, designating certain roads in Fremont County as a section of the Pike Pioneer Trail. Other discussion? I would just note that when we celebrated the 200th anniversary of Pike, I think I noted that given the fact that the Royal Gorge had been cut through the granite of millions of years, that from the time Pike traversed the Arkansas River on that winter of, I don't know what year it was.
1806.
1806, that, because he and his men had an icy Arkansas River to cross.
And the horses.
But the point being that since the time Pike traversed the Royal Gorge, we had seen only about a 2-inch erosion factor since Pike had traveled in the gorge itself. So with that, roll call.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Harvey.
Thank you very much.
One thing that I'd like you to know is that you mentioned signage, and we'll work with you on that, and all the other counties. But we're also talking about interpretive material, and we'll look for help from your radio station. You perhaps have heard me interviewed a number of times on there, and businesses to go after what was happening here. Actually, there was 2 people that remained here until February. Pike was in Fremont County basically in December after attempting to climb the mountain. He left on the 17th for South Park of December, and then later on in the month for the White Mountain Valley, and froze their toes off down there. So those are the kind of human stories that we're going to be interpreting to be able to put in your different venues here. So there's more beyond that. There is another thing that is already basically there. We have a smartphone app, and Fremont County is very much central in the Colorado section. So we're doing things to help you economically and educationally. I happen to be a chemistry professor, and I'm very interested in the public knowing what the real story was.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck with Chris Kringle. The hour having reached 10 a.m., we have a scheduled public hearing on the proposed Fremont County 2017 budget. And so I'll open the public hearing and ask our county manager, Sonny Bryant, to begin with a PowerPoint presentation to give us an overview of our proposed budget.
Okay, so this is the 2017 proposed budget. Just a quick overview of the budget strategy. So it's similar to prior years, where we try to preserve the services for the citizens, try to provide a fiscally responsible county budget, preserving the county assets, maintaining fund balances in the various funds, and trying to address increased requests for the 2017 budget. So some significant issues that we have coming up for 2017. We are projecting an increase of 3.2% in the assessed valuation from the 2015 assessment. Which would increase approximately $19,476 for the general fund property tax, $1,966 for road and bridge, $6,246 for DHS, and $742 for the airport. The projected retail sales tax and use tax collections are to remain approximately the same in 2016. We have seen an increase over the years, but we try to not assume that that is going to continue. There's obviously a lot of factors in that. The construction use tax, we're projecting to slightly go up. We've seen a continuous increase over the past few years, so we're looking at those numbers to slightly increase for next year. But what we always try to keep in mind is the uncertainty of the economy. So we really try not to budget for these high revenue increases based on what we're assuming will happen, and then have something like another fire or a flood or something, and then really be in trouble and have to make mid-year cuts. So this is a slide that shows the general fund total revenues from 2011 to 2017. So as you can see, back in 2011, our total general fund revenues were $11,046,000. We saw a spike in 2012, which was mostly because of some revenues that came in for intergovernmental, and then those were actually pass-through grants that we sent off to programs through COG, which they administer some of the CDBG funds. And then the numbers have gone back down to about 11.1, 11.3. So over the past few years, our general fund total revenues has remained right around 11, up or down slightly based on that. So this year, we're estimating about $10,900,000 as a starting amount for our general fund revenues. And once again, the CDBG money that we have in there, it ranges anywhere between 0 up to about $200,000. So that number is not plugged in as a revenue at this point, because we don't know what grants they're going to go for next year. So the $10,980,000 would be excluded of those revenues that were possibly coming in. But once again, that's a direct expenditure, so the net to the general fund would be 0. So just a few glances at some of the sources of revenue. So the property taxes collected from fiscal year 2010 to 2017. As you can see, we were at $5.2 million back in 2010. This year, we're looking at $5.3 million. So we've kind of seen some ups and downs over the past few years, but this is where we're looking at collecting for next year. The retail sales tax collections from 2009 to 2016, as you can see, back in 2009, it was at $3.5 million, and we're estimating to end 2016 at about $4.4 million, and this is excluded of the sheriff's tax, so that's not part of these numbers here. These are the amounts that go into the general fund and the sales and use tax fund. The auto use tax collections from 2009 to 2016 estimate, back in 2009 it was $647,000, and it slowly increased up to where we're at $1,032,000. And then the construction use tax, we've kind of been all over the place. We had a pretty big year in 2010. But consistently they've been, between 200, dropped down a little bit. We're estimating this year to be about 237,000. So this is an overview of the revenues and expenses. Sorry, I'm trying to move this thing out of the way. So the revenues and expenses from all of the funds, and it's a fund summary report. So general fund, we're estimating to start the year at $1,922,000. We have $10,980,000 in estimated revenues, which gives $12,903,000 available. Our expenses are at $11,441,000, which has an ending balance of $1,462,000. The Sheriff's Department has an estimated beginning balance of $2,456,000. Their estimated revenues are $9,289,000. Their estimated expenditures are $11,102,000, leaving them an ending balance of $643,000. Department of Transportation, $1.8 million. Estimated revenues of $3.6. Estimated expenditures of $4.3, leaving them with $1,099,000. And then I'll go down some of them. Department of Health, we're still trying to get some of the state money that's coming in. So as of today, we're projecting this, but they're working on their invoices and everything, so that number, I believe, will come in to where we will end this year at a positive and be able to start next year off at that same positive. I'll kind of go down. Airport fund, estimated ending or beginning balance of $107,000. Estimated revenues of $1.1 million, expenditures $1.2, leaving an ending balance of $29,000. Capital expenditure fund, that's where we're running the part of the jail project through. So that's the beginning balance of $2.2 million. We're going to spend the majority of that next year, so that'll leave $16,000 roughly in that fund. The Department of Human Services Fund, we're estimating to start the year at $640,000, with revenues coming in at $9,095,000, expenditures at $9,174,000, with a ending balance of $562,000. And self-funded, $1.7 million, revenues $3.2, expenditures right around the same, so we're ending about $1.8. And then weed fund estimated to start at $39,000. $191 in revenues, $225 in expenditures, and ending at $5,000. So this next sheet just shows basically revenues versus expenditures, and as you can see, there's quite a few funds that we are dipping into our fund balance in order to make this work. General fund, unfortunately, a lot of that is operating. We're just trying to manage the funds, but we unfortunately have a lot of requests coming in. So even though we don't like to, next year we're looking at spending approximately $460,000 of our beginning balance. The Sheriff's Fund, what they've done the first couple years is try to save up some money so that they can start accomplishing these bigger capital projects. So next year they're looking at spending about $1.8 million of their fund balance. DOT is doing something similar. They've kind of saved up over a few years, gotten some reimbursements from some grants, so next year they're really trying to tackle some of the bigger road projects or some of the things that they've been not able to do over the prior few years to make that work. And then, like I said, in the capital expenditure fund, it's another piece of the jail renovation project, so we'll be spending down that fund as well. So just kind of where the money comes from, we estimate to have about $47,115,000 total. And the next chart shows it a little better. So this is the sources of revenue. So we get approximately 12% of that from property taxes, 19% from sales and use tax, 28% from intergovernmental revenues. So you can see the breakout there based on where the money is coming from. And then the expenditures, it's a similar sheet here. So it's by fund department. So we have all of the big major funds are at the top, and then we have the other funds, which includes the capital expenditure, sales and use tax, PILT, all of those combined. So the next sheet shows, once again, the actual budgeted expenditures, where this is where the money is going. So you can see general fund is 26% and the sheriff fund is about the same percentage. Department of Human Services is 20%, and then the other funds around that. So as an overview, the overall budgeted expenses, including interfund transfers, are $47,115,000. The general fund portion of that is $11,441,000. The sheriff piece is $11,102,000, and the Department of Transportation is $4,378,000, and the Department of Human Services is $9,174,000. So over the next few weeks, we'll be finalizing things, making a few small tweaks. We are going to plan on scheduling a public meeting for December 20th at 9:30 to do the budget adoption and the mill levy certification. So we would do that at that time. The proposed budget is posted on the county website, and there is a paper copy that is available in the finance office for review as well. So that's all I have for now.
Questions of Sunny?
Nothing at this time.
All right. So this is a public hearing, and I meant to note that if you choose to address the board on the budget hearing, if you would fill out, I guess there's no slips on the podium, but there's slips at the back table if you would like to address the board. Oh, there they are. Thank you, Dave. So this is a public hearing. If there's anyone that wishes to address the board at this time on the budget, feel free to approach. Good morning, Mr. Ledoux.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Chairman. I haven't filled out a slip. Would you like me to do that?
No, you can, I think we know who the district attorney is.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm here for a couple of reasons. One, I want to ask that the Board of County Commissioners in Fremont County reconsider the proposed line item for the district attorney's office. It's my understanding from previous communications that the line item for the district attorney's office has been increased in an amount. I think the total amount was approximately 10%. My recollection from the communication from Ms. Bryant was that that represented a loss of the state-funded revenues. As I think the Commission's aware, because of the legislative mandate in the state of Colorado this year, the district attorney's office is losing the opportunity to cost recovery for our discovery, which is a loss for our annual budget of from our annual budget of $100,000 of cost recovery. So because of whether you want to call it an unfunded mandate or a state legislative change, the district attorney's office is losing $100,000 from our budget. So my understanding is that, and as you're aware, the district attorney's office under District Attorney-elect Molly Shilson has presented to the collective boards of county commissioners a proposed budget that would replace that lost revenue and would ask for an increase in funding for the district attorney's office of approximately 10% in addition to replacing that lost revenue. So that you're aware, the Chaffee County Board of County Commissioners voted to approve that proposed budget last week, and the Park County, the 11th Judicial District being made up of 4 different counties, the Park County Board of County Commissioners voted to approve that proposed budget yesterday or the day before. So 2 of the 4 counties that make up the 11th Judicial District have approved the district attorney's budget as proposed. Again, a 10% increase in addition to the lost revenue because of the discovery revenue cuts. We have reason to believe that the Custer County Board of County Commissioners will also vote to approve that budget as proposed. Their proposed budget has the district attorney's funding line item as proposed from District Attorney-elect Ms. Chilson. So we have reason to believe that 3 of the 4 counties in the 11 judicial districts have recognized the district attorney's proposed 2017 budget as the necessary operating expenses and salary expenses for 2017. And I'm here to encourage you to adopt that view of the district attorney's proposed budget for 2017. The proposed line item in the Fremont County budget for 2017 does not reflect the proposed budget from District Attorney-elect Molly Chilson. Instead, it's my understanding that it reflects a contribution to the lost revenue for the population proportion of Fremont County, as well as a 4.45% increase, or a little bit less than half of the proposed increase from the district attorney's office. That is an insufficient amount of funds in order to adequately and professionally operate the district attorney's office for 2017. That is because there are lots of reasons for that. One, criminal cases, well, the primary reason in Fremont County is that we have seen an explosion in particularly the felony caseload here in Fremont County. In 2010, Fremont County had 330 felony cases. for the entire county. In 2011, 398. In 2012, 454. In 2013, 423. In 2014, 424. In 2015, that number rose to 505 felony cases in Fremont County. I would note that increase in felony cases coincides with a couple of events. One, the increased funding for the Fremont County Sheriff's Office that comes from the increased tax, the proposal that was adopted by the voters and resulted in an explosion in the Fremont County Sheriff's budget, which has, I believe, doubled since that tax expenditure was, or that tax proposition was approved by voters. So the Fremont County Sheriff's Office budget has nearly doubled in that time frame, and corresponding to that doubling of the Fremont County Sheriff's budget line item, we see a increase from 2014 to 2015 of nearly 100 felony cases, almost a 25% increase in felony cases. It also happens to correspond with what we've seen in the introduction of heroin in our community, which occurred, the first heroin case that I saw come across my desk was sometime in, I believe, late 2014. And as a result of heroin and its associated criminal behaviors, we've seen a significant increase in case numbers. I attribute the increase in felony case numbers to, in part, at least those two events. Those are two events that the District Attorney's Office has no control over. And obviously, we encourage the full and adequate funding of the Fremont County Sheriff's Office that is necessary. But it is also necessary to fund the District Attorney's Office so that we can prosecute the increased number of cases that the Fremont County Sheriff's Office is sending to us. If you increase the funding of the Fremont County Sheriff's Office and that results in increased case filings or submissions to my office, I have to have additional resources in order to be able to adequately prosecute those cases. It is of no use to increase your funding to the law enforcement agency if you are not going to adequately fund your prosecution agency so that they can deal with those cases in the courts of law instead of just dealing with them in terms of the investigation. If you can't prosecute those cases and take them to court, then there's no reason to increase your funding to the law enforcement agency. So I stopped at 2015. In that year, we had 505 felony cases. We advised, I believe yesterday, 16 CR, I think it was 678. So we've had 678 felony cases in Fremont County. Last year we had 505, the year before that 424. We've had 678 felony cases in Fremont County to date this year. We're on pace to have 780 felony cases in Fremont County filed in 2016. That's 780 cases that I have to send deputy district attorneys into court to prosecute. Again, in 2010, just 6 years ago, 330 felony cases. This year, 780 felony cases. You have to increase the funding to the district attorney's office in order to equip the prosecution office to deal with a doubling of the caseload. You simply have to do that. There is no choice. The statutory mandate requires that you fund the necessary expenses for the district attorney's office in your proportion by population to the rest of the 11th Judicial District. You cannot look at a doubling of the felony case filings in your county, and I'm not talking about the other case increases that we've seen in the other counties in the 11th Judicial District, but you cannot look at a 2010 caseload of 330 and a 2016 projected caseload of 780 cases and not recognize that there is a need to significantly increase the funding to the district attorney's office. Before this year, in the 9 years that I have presented the budget to this board as well as the other boards of the counties in the 11th Judicial District, the average increase in funding to the district attorney's office in the 8 years preceding has been 2%. 2% is no more than the cost of living adjustment for salaries and representing the increased expenses for things like gas and postage. 2% is no effective increase in funding. So this board, as well as the other boards of the 11th Judicial District, have, I submit to this board, not increased the district attorney's funding in the time, effectively, in the 8 years that I have served as your elected district And now the district attorney-elect, Ms. Chilson, comes to this board and tells you that you have a doubling of your felony caseload, a more than doubling of your felony caseload since 2010, and asks you not to double the budget, not to increase the budget by 30% or 40%, but to effectively increase the budget by a modest 10%. When the district attorney-elect comes to this board and says, please effectively increase my funding by 10% and replace the funding that I lost because of this state legislative mandate, effectively increase my funding by 10% so that I can try to begin to deal with the doubling of the felony caseload, I submit to this Board of County Commissioners that it is incumbent that you see that request as representing the necessary and reasonable expenses of the district attorney's office, and that you, like Chaffey County has done, and like Park County has done, and like we expect Custer County to do, that you approve the 2017 district attorney's budget as funded, or as requested, excuse me. The line item contained in the current proposed budget, again, does not adequately fund the district attorney's office and will require that the district attorney's office make significant cuts in its services. Now, I submit to you that that's a challenge for a district attorney's office to determine how to make a decision about how to cut those services. If we're not adequately funding, as this Board of County Commissioners knows all too well, when you come up against the ceiling of funding that you have to cut services. That's exactly why this building is, that Fremont County is closed on Fridays, and that this Board of County Commissioners has made really difficult decisions about how to cut services going forward. And if you continue to underfund the district attorney's office, the district attorney's office will have to make really tough decisions about how to cut its services. And again, because of the nature of the business of prosecuting criminal cases, that is a difficult thing to do. How would we start? Maybe we would say, okay, we have a heroin problem in our community, so we're going to focus on heroin, and we're not going to use any of our resources to prosecute marijuana cases. How is that going to go over in this community? But that's the type of decision that will have to be made. We will no longer have the resources to prosecute marijuana cases. Are we to say, well, if there's a theft case of less than $100, then that's insignificant enough, we have to cut somewhere, so we're not going to prosecute any theft cases of less than $100. How can the district attorney do that? How would the community look at that? That's an open rein for people to walk into any store in this community and simply walk out with whatever they want to steal for less than $100. And it wouldn't matter if you fund the sheriff's office to the hilt, he can arrest them all that he wants. And he can bring them into county court, and the district attorney will have to stand up in front of that county court judge and say, I don't have the resources to prosecute this case, so you're going to have to dismiss this case. And it won't matter that you arrested them. It won't matter that you have plenty of sheriff deputies to investigate those cases. It won't matter because you haven't funded the district attorney's office sufficiently to be able to prosecute those cases. And again, that's an untenable position for this board to force the district attorney's office to make for this community. The district attorney is only statutorily mandated to appear in district court. So how do we cut services? Are we to then not appear in county court cases at all? Because we have to use our resources to focus on heroin cases, attempted murder cases, rape, other drug cases in district court, and then we would just not prosecute county court cases because we're not statutorily mandated to appear in county court? And where would that responsibility fall? Would it fall with Fremont County, the Board of County Commissioners of Fremont County, to then go into county court and prosecute those cases? You have made those decisions. You've closed the county down on Friday. You've cut services back significantly. The district attorney, if you don't adequately fund the district attorney, again, a modest 10% effective increase in funding to reflect or give us the opportunity to address a doubling of the felony caseload. If you don't fund that, the district attorney will have to make those difficult decisions. And the responsibility for those decisions will come back to this Board of County Commissioners. In years past, I have been told by this Board of County Commissioners that you do not have the resources necessary to increase the funding of the district attorney's office to the level that I have requested. And I have respected that because I have looked at the Fremont County budget. I've studied it every year I've been the district attorney, and I know, just like you didn't have any money. You had no money to increase the funding to the district attorney's office, and while I was frustrated by that because we had to do more with less in my office, I never appeared at this public meeting to publicly complain about it. But this year is different, and it was different last year, honestly. I have studied the Fremont County budget. The Fremont County Commissioners have the resources necessary to fund the 2017 proposed budget from the district attorney's office. You do. You have continued, despite the passage of the tax increase for the sheriff's office, you have continued to put $4 million a year into the sheriff's budget. It is no longer necessary for this Board of County Commissioners to continue to contribute $4 million to the sheriff's budget. Before that tax increase passed, Sheriff Biker ran his sheriff's office at just over $5 million a year. We just saw the slide. $11.1 million. The entire general fund expenditures of Fremont County is just 11.4. You have built a sheriff's office that is equal in size to the entire general fund of the Fremont County. Yet you continue to put $4 million a year into that fund. You've doubled the expenditures of the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. He was underfunded before that tax passed. He was. He needed more money. The Sheriff's Office needed that money. Absolutely, yes. They were not underfunded by half. Just over $5 million was the sheriff's budget before that tax passed. $11.1 million. You've doubled the expenditures on the sheriff's. You no longer need to contribute $4 million. And again, just so that we're clear, the Fremont County only contributes a portion, 55% of the district attorney's overall budget. I'll have to work off my memory. We were asking for $187,000 in increased funding over last year's contribution from Fremont County. $187,000. All I'm asking you to do is take the $4 million you continue to contribute to an $11 million sheriff's office and take $187,000 of that contribution and give it to the district attorney's office so that we can have a fighting chance to deal with the 780 felony cases that we have seen. In part, I submit to you, it's impossible for you to conclude that case increase isn't in part because you're funding an $11 million sheriff's office. So again, it makes no sense to continue to have an $11 million sheriff's office if you've got a district attorney's office that's cobbling together nickels and pennies to try to show up in court to deal with the doubling of the felony caseload. We just can't do it any longer. And we'll have to make cuts, untenable cuts for this community. And the request that District Attorney Molly Chilson has made, the budget that she submitted to you is eminently reasonable. And it is incumbent upon this Board of County Commissioners to accept that proposed budget. And that's why I'm here to urge you to change the number that you have in the proposed budget and to have that number reflect the budget that was proposed by your district attorney-elect, Ms. Chilson. And again, I guess it's up to the Board of County Commissioners to decide where that extra $187,000 should come from. But I submit to you that you have those resources available to you because of the continued contribution of $4 million to the Sheriff's Office that I submit to you, no one can look at that budget and say that contribution from the general fund continues to be necessary.
Okay. Is that it?
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. I think the citizens of Fremont County deserve an explanation from this board as to what is reflected in this budget and the discussions that we have had leading up to the numbers proposed and the history associated with how we get here. And I don't think this board is going to sit and dispute cases, increased caseload numbers that you provide. They are what they are. And we're left with a situation because if you go back to the ballot language of the, and you keep saying that this board has given those dollars. The taxpayers of Fremont County voted to give those dollars to the sheriff's fund. You need to be reminded of that first and foremost. And we are guided by what the taxpayers of Fremont County said in that ballot question. And that ballot question said that if the voters choose to fund a 1% increase in the sales tax to the sheriff's department, that those funds would not supplant the existing 9 million base that the Fremont County Commissioners were funding the sheriff from the general fund. So not only did this board get repeatedly asked during that campaign whether we would reduce the amount of money to the sheriff if the tax passed, but it was also in the ballot language. So this board has followed that mandate of $3.9 million to continue to fund the sheriff. And you have asked that question last year during this budgeting process. And my question to you then, and my question to you now, have you had a conversation with the sheriff? Because in this board's mind, that's where it starts. We're committed by the language of the ballot issue and by the voters of Fremont County to continue to fund from the general fund $3.9 million. And our suggestion then was that if you want some of those dollars, that you have a conversation with the sheriff. If his increase of officers in the field has increased the caseload of cases coming from the sheriff's department, then that's a worthy conversation. The other point I think that's worth mentioning is, and you talk about replacing the money, the $100,000, percentage-wise, when this conversation began, we were talking about a 20% increase. And we understand you're replacing $100,000 in lost revenue because of discovery fees that you lose in 2017. We recognize that at commissioners from all 4 counties. But budgetarily, we in the county, and you reduced it to 2% per year over the last 5 to 6 years, but in fact, in 2016, in the current year, the 4 counties gave the district attorney a 9% increase. And then in the proposed budget that came forth, we were asked for a 20% increase in 2017 on top of the 9% that we gave in the current year. And if you'll put up the slide, Ms. Bryant, of the general fund revenues and expenditures, and I've tried to state this repeatedly, and this is, again, no reflection on questioning the impact on your caseload, but the fact that as we look revenues and expenditures of the 2017 proposed budget.
Sorry, let me put there.
Showing each fund, Sonny. There you go. What this board has discussed repeatedly in our budget workshops, and not only in discussing the request from the district attorney, but in discussing requests from every department or elected official. Because other than the sheriff has his own fund, the Department of Transportation has their own fund, but most of what the commissioners control is in the general fund. And she showed that we're going to end 2016 with $1.9 million in reserves. It's when I came into office almost 12 years ago, we were fighting to get reserves back to $1 million. And then in 2007, our reserves fell to $252,000. for a county our size, we ought to be running a general fund reserve in excess of $3 million easily, because we ought to be able to run the county on reserves for at least 6 weeks. So the slide that's shown reflects the 1.9 million starting 2017 and ending 2017 at 1.4 million. Our problem, as this board sits here today, and a new board of commissioners that will deal with the expenditures next year, is the fact that we're reducing those general fund reserves by $460,000. And the message that we have tried to convey to every department, to every elected official, is that it's not sustainable on some of these requests. If we give that kind of an increase across the board, we continue, because this is not just a one-time commitment in 2017, you're locked in for each year down the road. And that's our problem from a fiduciary responsibility, is to try to maintain reserves moving forward. And again, I repeat, I would hope, and I don't know when the last time is that you had a conversation with the sheriff, but I would think that in the job that you do as the district attorney, that would be something that would be somewhat routine. But I sense that has not been the case. And I think that's part of the problem that is not on the table for this Board of Commissioners.
Can I make a quick clarification? I actually have the ballot language in front of me, and I would like to clarify that there is actually not language that says that the budget will continue to be supplanted, but it was the very solemn vow of this board to every citizen who voted that the other areas of the sheriff's funding, as currently funded, would continue to remain. And just like the sunset provision, we added that because of all of the ballot measures that had failed for the sheriff in the past. And we believe, and continue to believe, based on conversations I still have today with voters, that they wanted to make sure that the new funds would not be used as a substitute for the existing funding. So although it wasn't actually in the ballot language itself, it was a promise that this board made to the voters, because it had been turned down so many times by those same voters, people who looked at this board and said, you're playing a shell game, you're going to get new tax money for him, but then you're going to take the tax money you're currently giving with him and do something else with it. So people actually believed that we were trying to transform numbers and to do some magic and to do big increases in other areas and not within the sheriff's budget. So that was the promise that we have kept. I just thank you. I wanted to make that clarification.
If I may, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If there is no voter mandate, then it is incumbent upon this Board of County Commissioners, as it sits here in 2016, to make the right decision for this community. So, first of all, whatever vow or promise, if you don't have, if that wasn't voted on by the voters, you have no voter mandate. The projected funds from that tax in 2014 and the 2014 budget was $2.8 million. That was the projected revenue. So the representation at best was that with $2.8 million influx to the sheriff's office, that none of the additional funds would be transferred to other areas of the Fremont County budget. For the 2017 budget, it's $3.66 million. It's $800,000 of extra revenue over what the voters approved in 2013. In 2013, the contribution to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office was $4.321 million. So you did reduce the contribution to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office from 2013 to 2014 by $400,000. So if that was a solemn vow that was made to the voters that there would be no decrease in general fund funding from the Fremont County to the Sheriff's Office, you broke that in 2014 when you reduced that funding from $4.3 million to $3.9 million, which is the level it stayed at already. regardless, whatever promise that this board thinks it made to the voters or thinks that it's bound to by the voters, we elect county commissioners to represent us and to represent our best interests. If we just had county commissioners that were going to do exactly what the voters said, then that would be pure democracy, and that's not what we have, and that would be kind of silly. We wouldn't need county commissioners. We wouldn't need to pay county commissioners $250,000 every year in salary. We could just say, well, we'll just present everything to the voters and whatever the voters want to do. Well, we have county commissioners to make these hard decisions. This is why politicians routinely violate or go back on promises, because it's the right thing to do for the community when situations change. The situation has changed. The revenues now are not $2.8 million from the tax that was increased by the voters. It's $3.6 million. And the situation has changed. The district attorney's felony caseload has doubled. And so it's incumbent on this board to say for those voters on their behalf, look, we understand that we said this, but the facts have changed. The situation has changed. There's been an additional $800,000 that we weren't necessarily projecting to the sheriff, so he's doing fine. As a result of that, perhaps it was an unforeseen consequence, but this is what has happened. The district attorney's caseload has doubled, and we have to be able to send lawyers into the court in order to prosecute those cases that the sheriff's office is investigating. We have to be able to do that on behalf of the community, so the situation has changed.
And the situation also changed because not only were those revenue projections low, but it's probably a good thing that those revenue projections were low and that other revenues materialized, because at the time of that election, we were projecting a kitchen and laundry jail remodeling project at what, about $3 million? And it's now over $5 million. And not only do we not have the cash to pay up front, despite the sheriff's best effort to accumulate cash in reserves, we had to do bank financing over a 7-year period, counting on those increased sales tax revenues to the sheriff's fund to pay off that 7-year loan, because we had to do a short-term loan because this sales tax sunsets in a matter of 6 years. And the sheriff and the future board is going to have their task to show the citizens that they were responsible with the dollars to get a 1% or some future level of taxation put in permanently, because if that tax is not renewed in some form, you've got disaster on the horizon.
If I could just real quickly, I also share the chairman's concern that it's my understanding that you have not had this conversation with the sheriff. So he previously asked that question and then I kind of jumped in, so I would like an explanation if I could.
I can address that. It's not the sheriff's responsibility in the state of Colorado to fund the district attorney's office. That's not how the statutory scheme sets up the funding for the district attorney's office. I did have a conversation with the sheriff about 3 months ago, 2.5, 3 months ago, while I was standing outside the Rotary meeting on my cell phone talking to the sheriff. He reached out to me when I communicated to this board and some other investigators at the Fremont County Sheriff's Office that at this point I didn't have the resources necessary to prosecute marijuana cases. The sheriff called me and asked if there was some sort of cost-sharing arrangement that we could reach. I told him that I would be amenable to talking about that I was concerned about the structure, given the statutory structure, which is that this Board of County Commissioners funds the district attorney's office. We had a conversation about that, and I've been waiting for a return phone call from the sheriff ever since. So I engaged in that conversation, though I think that it is folly to do so, given that it's not the sheriff's responsibility to fund my office, it's your responsibility. But I did engage in that conversation, and it has gone nowhere. So that was an effort that I did make, so that you're aware of. I would like to note that in the proposed budget for the Fremont County Sheriff's Office for 2017, the $11.1 million expenditures, the capital outlay over $5,000 line is 0. So that's $11.1 million of expenses that isn't going to the kitchen. And I will admit, there are some line items in here that I don't understand. It's a little bit of a confusing budget. But I don't see, I would have thought that the kitchen project would have been in the capital outlay over $5,000 line item. That's the one that makes the most sense to me. But it's $11.1 million of basically operating expenses.
And I can actually clarify that. We have certificates of participation repayment coming out of that, which is roughly let me get down there real quick. I'm sorry, 779,000 for next year. We have lease payments for 470,000, which are vehicle leases that we're having to repay. Another factor is regional dispatch. Our new contribution of that is roughly $400,000. We have had some additional detention deputies. We've hired, let's see.
Right, the other expenses are laid out. But there's no capital outlay over $500,000, and if the contribution to the kitchen project is $779,000, and that's only $800,000 of an $11.1 million budget. The other $10.5 million are just operating expenses by the sheriffs, and not to rebuild this kitchen. And there was also up here, there was a capital expenditures fund, which we were told which is a $2.2 million line item there, that's being spent down to $16,000. We were told in the slideshow presentation that represented the jail project. I think the exact language was, the general expenditures fund includes the sheriff's jail project. So the jail project
The cash,
isn't even wholly represented in the $11.1 million.
the cash portion, right? There's a cash portion.
So that's the financing piece is in the capital expenditure.
My point being, you're spending $10.5 million not on jail, on the sheriff's office, that has nothing to do with the jail kitchen project. It just has to do with expenditures. And I can go through the lines. I mean, believe me, my head has stewed over some of the line item expenses in here in the sheriff's office, some of which just, and again, understand that I have to go back to my employees. This public document is available to my employees. So when I go back to my employees and I say, hey, we get an effective 4.45% increase in funding, but I desperately need lawyers. So you're not getting any pay increase because I have to hire new lawyers with that 4.5 new lawyers. I say that plural as if it would be plural. I have to hire a new lawyer to try to deal with the doubling of the felony pay. And they look at this and they see that there's a $100,000 uniform allowance and a $10,000 employee recognition that never existed, that the holiday pay went from $25,000 to $45,000, that actual over normal patrol, whatever that is, went from $30,000 to $55,000. The increase in the salary package to the patrol officers is over 20%.
Well, you're going to touch a sore point here with me just pretty soon. When you mentioned that we're going to pay deputies uniform allowance, you want us to sit here and tell you how many years those deputies paid for their own uniforms and didn't get an allowance?
How is that different from?
Well, I'm just telling you that we suffered through quite a few years, and they paid a price, both in detention and on the road. And I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and be criticized for giving deputies a uniform allowance.
Well, then what if I asked for a uniform allowance for my deputy district attorneys? They have a dress code every bit the same as those county deputies. When they walk into court, they are required to be in a suit, coat, and tie, every single one of them. So if I just change my 2017 proposed budget to say I need a dress code allowance for my deputies, why wouldn't your same passion with respect to dressing those deputies adequately be the exact same for the district attorney's office?
Well, be that as it may, I'm with the other two commissioners. We made a promise, and I know you don't agree with our promise to the voters of our $3.9 million, but we made that promise, and I'm not about to break that promise. Not to the sheriff, not to the voters. Now, if you want to have a conversation with the sheriff about some cost sharing of some kind, I would be open to a conversation there with the sheriff and see what he has to say about that. But he's going to be involved with this conversation. It's just not going to be us taking money out of his budget. Just that's not going to happen. Sheriff Biker is going to be involved with this conversation.
And here is my concern with that, Mr. Ledoux. You don't need to stand before us and lecture this board that it is our duty to budget for the county. We fully understand that. But as with almost every budget, I would imagine worldwide, it starts in the lower levels and it works its way up. We don't sit down and say, well, this is what we're going to give the sheriff this year. We're going to let him figure it out. No, just like every other elected official and department that we have, The sheriff brings a budget to us. It is a proposed budget. It says, this is what I would like to spend my money on. If we had a line item from the sheriff in his proposed budget saying, yes, I would like some of this revenue to be budgeted for the district attorney's office, we would deeply, deeply consider that. So that's my concern with you standing before us and telling us it is our decision, because we understand it's our decision.
The other footnote I want to make is that I'm not sure what the budget document in Custer County now represents, but I was told in a conversation in Colorado Springs 8 days ago that from Commissioner Shai that Custer County had was intending to follow Fremont County's planned budget and provide a 10% increase in 2017, reflecting the restoring the $100,000 and the 4.45%. So I'm just saying what I was told by one commissioner. Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
I do have additional questions. If some other member of the public, I don't know how long this meeting was scheduled, but no one else stood up, so if another member of the public was just to take the podium, I can wait my turn again.
No, please.
I have my hand up, John.
Lisa, please.
As you can notice, my badge is off. I'm speaking as a Fremont County citizen. And I'm not saying where the money should come from for the district attorney's office, but I am in favor of trying to do something to help this community as far as prosecuting these crimes. Our family has been victimized numerous times this last year, and many times they can't prosecute it, or they plea it so far down that when we see the people again, they smirk at us for what they've done against us. And so not only are we victims of the crime, but we're victims because these people cannot be properly prosecuted. And it is a terrible problem, and it is only getting worse. And I don't want to create any ire. I don't know where the funds can come from. I haven't dissected the budget, but I am saying that it's something that needs strong consideration, because it has become a serious problem. And we needed the sheriff's department, and we needed that increase, and I voted for that increase because we needed them to have the manpower and everything they needed to be able to go out and arrest these people. But now we need funds for our DA's office to prosecute them. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board on the budget hearing?
George would like to speak, as well as the sheriff.
Who? Oh,
George has his
hang
hand.
on, George. Sheriff?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a lot of thoughts and comments that we don't have time for today. And first, I'd like to say that I did originally reach out to Tom, and then I backed off because I've had to give this a lot of soul searching as to being accused of being disingenuous to voters, and how for a very extended time, we went to voters and to the civic organizations and to everyone in Fremont County trying to explain the need at the sheriff's office, and they supported that and they passed that tax. The district, this is not just a local problem, this is a statewide problem. There is no secret that district attorneys across the state are woefully underfunded, especially in comparison to their counterparts who are defending all of these felony cases. But Tom, I'm also going to say that it's very unfair for you to portray to the citizens of this county that the increase in the sheriff's office budget is responsible for the doubling or more than doubling of the caseload. As a matter of fact, the extra patrol deputies that were described to the voters are just now in FTO. They're not even out of training. It's taking that long to hire those officers. so much of the expenditures that you're discussing are from decades of cuts that are being somewhat restored and to include the improvements, the things that we need to do to the infrastructure that belong to the taxpayers of this county. There are several other law enforcement entities in this county that provide you felony cases. So it's not fair to say that we're solely responsible for the doubling of that caseload. In talking with the chiefs, the State Patrol, Division of Wildlife, we've all experienced a tremendous increase in calls for service, which are reflecting in these cases. And I do understand the dilemma, but it's not fair to solely lay that on there. And I don't think it has anything to do with the increase of our budget, because those people haven't even hit the streets yet. I did want to make that comment. The bottom line is, I am open to discussions. I apologize for not having reached back out to you after the original call, because I do want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. But I have responsibility to the people that elected me as well, and I'm trying to fulfill that. And some of what you say, Tom, tells me you have little understanding what it takes to run a correctional facility and a law enforcement agency of over 116 staff. I'm not going to stand up here and apologize for the cost of law enforcement. That's, I won't. It's what we've made it. It is an expensive endeavor. And for many years, those officers did not have the tools, the training, the things they needed to do their jobs. And we're just now restoring those things. But having said all that, I too would welcome further discussion about how we might be able to help. But in all fairness, I think the chief of police of both entities probably should listen in on this, because they also are providing cases to the district attorney's office. So unless there's other questions of me, I just wanted to make a few of those comments. I thank the board for the tremendous amount of pressure and heat you've gotten over this issue and over the sheriff's office budget processes and the expenditure of those dollars. But I, with you, am trying very hard to fulfill the things that we told the voters in this county, which was an historic event, in my opinion, as you all are well aware of. So thank you for that, and I think that we can move forward in somehow in helping to resolve their shortfalls. I don't know how it is. I would love, if the voters are listening, to hear from them about this, because I don't want it to perceive as being disingenuous, either on your side or my side, on how we presented, how we would spend those dollars, which we were very specific about. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
No, thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
If I may,
Mr. Ledoux?
Chairman. So first of all, I didn't mean to suggest that the increase in the sheriff's funding was solely responsible for the doubling of the felony caseload. I don't believe I said that. I believe I said that the introduction of heroin in our community was also a contributing factor, and I don't know what else has contributed to that factor. But there is a correspondence between the increase of the felony caseload and the increase in funding to the sheriff's office. And my larger point is, it doesn't matter why the caseload has doubled. I have to have the lawyers to go into court to prosecute those cases. So it doesn't matter if not a single extra case came from the increase in funding. I still have 780 felonies to deal with this year. And my other response to the sheriff is, well, yes, I don't have any experience running a underfunded law enforcement agency. I can tell you that I have 8 years of experience of running a severely underfunded law firm. A prosecution office that doesn't have the necessary tools or training or experience or salary to reflect the job that we ask them to do. I know intimately what that is like. And what I'm telling you is that we have come up to a point, we have been able to, through shoestrings and duct tape and gum, I have been able to make that thing last for 7 years up until 2016. And now that we're looking at 780 felony cases, I'm telling you, without the proposed budget, it will not last. It has come to the breaking point. Just like the sheriff was at the breaking point in 2013, the district attorney's office is at a severe breaking point. And we will be making cuts to services. And that will mean we will not be prosecuting cases. And so, That will mean we'll be just when cases come in, we won't be filing criminal charges, or we'll be dismissing them, and they'll be walking back out onto the streets of this community. Or we'll be coming to the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners and saying, we're not going to appear in county court anymore. And because we have to focus our efforts, we have the resources necessary, all of our resources need to go into handling these felony cases, and therefore we won't be able to handle county court anymore. And so any county court case will need to be prosecuted by some other entity, whether that be the law enforcement agency or Fremont County. And we just get to a point, again, I assume I'm preaching to the choir on this. You understand how this works. We're going to get to the point where we have to make cuts. And I guess my question back to the board is, where would you like to see those cuts made? How would you have the district attorney make those cuts? And my response to talking to the sheriff, great. I'm happy to sit down and I can talk to the sheriff this afternoon if he wants to talk. But there's not much to talk about. I need $187,000 in addition to the contribution that you made last year. That's what I need. $187,000 in cash to match the funding from Chaffey County and Park County so that I can hire lawyers to appear in court.
So I have a quick question, Chairman, if that's okay.
Yes.
Just for clarification, Mr. Ledoux, you're asking for $359,576 between the four entities, which essentially would replace the $100,000 and add an additional $259,000. The question that I have is, how many attorneys are you looking to hire with that $259,000?
We would, I believe that the proposed budget called for the addition of 2 lawyers, as well as an investigator.
As well as what?
An investigator. As you know, we're losing our chief investigator is retiring. Chief investigator Howell is retiring at the end of the year. He's also our IT department, so we're needing to hire an IT person and an investigator, in addition to 2 lawyers to represent the community on those additional cases. And I've been focusing on the felony caseload, the cases in county court, the misdemeanor and traffic, DUI, third-degree assault cases. Those are also have been increasing over the last couple of years. And again, I've been focusing on Fremont County. The case numbers have been increasing in the other areas of the district as well.
Okay, I anticipate the board will have follow-up discussion on this at budgetary workshop review prior to scheduled formal adoption of the county budget, 2017 budget on December 20th. So if there's any reports to be made from either the DA or the sheriff, need to either let the Board of Commissioners or the county manager know prior, or if the sheriff wants to have a separate conversation with the board at one of those budget workshops, we'd be willing to do that as well.
And I guess then my follow-up questions are, when are those workshops open to the district attorney? When are they going to be, and where?
Nothing's been
not
calendared
scheduled
yet.
No.
Yeah, as of right now, we didn't have any additional workshops scheduled, as the proposed budget typically doesn't change a whole lot between when it's proposed and when it's formally adopted. But we can schedule one, and we post all of our meetings open to the public. Everything's posted on the commissioner's website. They're posted on bulletin boards around here, so it's all available.
If I may request that those workshops be scheduled with at least an effort to accommodate my schedule between now and December 20th. And then my last question is, and if I could receive at least adequate notice in advance of any workshops that are going to be held, whether that be with respect to the sheriff's budget or the district attorney's. Appreciate that, and certainly make the effort to appear.
Okay.
And then my last question is, how does the Board of County Commissioners intend to deal with either a 2-2 vote with respect to the proposed budget or a 3-1 vote, depending on how Custer County comes in? And how does the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners intend to resolve that dispute, given that the 11th Judicial District?
In my 12 years sitting as a commissioner, statute has been silent because judicial districts in the state of Colorado are made up of multiple counties or single counties. And so the statute is silent as to how multiple county jurisdictions come up with funding mechanisms. So in the past, we've operated on a respectable 1-1, each county has a vote. But even when we tried to schedule a follow-up conference call, we couldn't get a response. So, and the only conversations I had was with one individual commissioner in Chaffee and one individual commissioner, as I mentioned, in Custer. And they indicated that they were just, I guess, doing what they were going to do in their own budget and didn't, I guess, lack of response, didn't see a need to schedule a vote. So Fremont County picks up 55% of the total bill. We've never exercised our majority rule in budgeting. We've tried to respect, but obviously this year has created certain problems for Fremont County in trying to come up with $187,000 without totally dipping further into reserves. So that'll have to be one of the conversations we have going forward.
I would add to that, I did have a conversation as well with a specific county commissioner from Chaffee County. He told me by telephone that he agreed with our county attorney's research that any county was free to offer the district attorney or to budget in their own county budgets over and above what the decision had been counties wide. He also told me we will always defer to the Fremont County Commissioners for the official decision. It is our decision to give over and above.
And I asked which county commissioner that was. I can discuss that interpretation with him.
I'm not certain that I need to give you that name.
Public records request that I be provided that information. The statute requires that the Fremont County contribute to the approved budget of the district attorney's office in proportion to the population. We have one vote, we have 2 votes approving the current 2017 budget. And again, we're hopeful that Custer County, despite whatever the representations were made offline to the chairman, we're hopeful that Custer County votes to approve the budget, in which scenario the district attorney's office will consider that proposed budget approved and would expect that Fremont County contribute to that.
So you read the statute that says we're obligated to that Custer County's 8% has an equal vote or equal stature in budgeting?
The statute says that you're obligated to fund by proportion of population the approved budget of the district attorney's office.
55%.
Yeah, to 55%. Oh, well, actually, it's 54, I think. But I think we've rounded it up to 55, but that's neither here nor there.
It does not say that, and I don't know why, but if in this particular situation, if the population were to control the voting interest or the approval interest, the statute does not connect the population to the approval. What it connects the population to is the proportionate contribution to the district attorney's office. So that's statutory language. I submit that I don't.
But the proportionate contribution is based upon population.
Correct, but not the approval. I do not believe that.
All right, I think we're getting to semantics. Let's see where we end up with in the next 3 weeks before we schedule final adoption. I think we're belaboring the issue at this point.
Well, again, the process by which this board is going to consider the district attorney's budget is important, and I believe should be public. And so I'm asking that I receive notice of those workshops and explanation for the process that the board is going to use to consider the district attorney's office budget approved or not approved. But I think it's fair to at least tell the district attorney how you're going to do that and what you're going to consider approved.
We just did.
So the board is going to unilaterally decide that whatever budget it approves is going to be the approved budget for the 11th Judicial District. If that's what you're going to do, then I'm just asking for that representation on the record so that
The only control this board has is the control over our approved budget for the district attorney's office in December. That's the only control. And if the other counties choose to fund more, you've already heard Commissioner Bell. And that's our interpretation at this point.
And again, I'm just trying to clarify, this county is going to consider whatever budget of the district attorney's office it approves as the approved budget for the district attorney 2017, regardless of what the other 3 counties do.
What?
Is this county, whatever contribution this county approves, it's going to consider that to be the approved budget of the district attorney's office, because as you know, those proportions.
No, if the other counties, Commissioner Bell just interpreted, if the other counties choose to go above and beyond our level, they have that opportunity to do so.
That statutory provision is not applicable. It's only applicable to special projects, and we're talking about necessary expenditures to fund the prosecution of the felony cases.
We're not going to get into the legal semantics, because that's the interpretation of that statute from our county attorney, and that's the legal advice that we're following at this point.
And that's what I'm asking. What is the legal interpretation? These aren't semantics. These are legal public processes that this board is going to go through, and I think it's fair to let the district attorney's office know what that process is in the higher level judicial district. I just want you to say yes to that.
And then they can go up above and beyond that if they want to.
No, they cannot.
Why not?
Only for special projects. And it's not with respect to the necessary expenditures of the district attorney's office. That's the statutory provision is clear about that. It does not cover the necessary operating expenses of the district attorney's office.
Then it goes back to that we're following different legal interpretations of the statute than you are.
And that's why I'm asking for your legal interpretation of the statute to be on the public record, so that I can know how you are reading the statutes. I think that's fair.
Ms. Jackson, am I correct in remembering that you stated that position in an email communication?
That's correct. And this is not a closing argument. This is a budget hearing for comment on the budget. I think we're pretty far afield of comment on the budget.
My request is with respect to the process of the budget. And what I was told in the email conversation from Ms. Jackson was that her statutory interpretation was attorney-client privilege, and that she would not provide that to you. So that's why I'm asking you, again, this is budgetary process and should be public and open information. I'm just asking you what process, how you read the statute, and what process you're going to use to determine the district attorney's budget. It's important, especially if there is subsequent litigation. For the
purposes of this public hearing, the document presented reflects restoration of $100,000 plus a 4.45% increase. Whether that's the final numbers that are adopted by this board, that's to be determined between now and December 20th. And anticipating that we'll have a discussion at a workshop at which you will be, it'll be calendared and you will be advised if you want to sit in. But we're not going to get into legal arguments. We'll talk about documents. We'll talk about budgetary figures, but we're not going to sit here for the rest of this budget hearing and debate the legal interpretations of the statute. End of story.
And my request to this board respectfully is that I be provided with that legal interpretation of the statute.
And your request stands submitted.
And it has been denied. I'd like this board to recognize that I've been told that request has been denied because it's attorney-client privilege. That's all I'm asking for, is a record of that.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
George, did you want to address the board?
Yes, I did. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have some good news that's going to help all of us. Excellent news. The stock market is just about at an all-time high. That will help every person in this room. And I want to wish you good luck with fixing the elevator. I do have one caveat. This fentanyl coming out of China, which is 50 times stronger than heroin. It's spelled F-E-N-T-A-N-Y-L. But last but not least, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, George. Is there any other comments for this budget hearing?
Mr. Hoare?
Mr. Hoare?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jim Hoare. Most of you know me on the board, but not sure all the public. I'm the Executive Director of the Recreation District here in Canyon City, or the area, and I came to ask questions more than comments to the board regarding the Conservation Trust Fund. As you know, and hopefully the audience knows, that is the lottery revenues that the county and many other local government agencies receive annually through the state of Colorado. The county currently owns, operates, maintains 4 parks within the county. One in the West End, the Veterans Memorial Park, the Ecology Park, and you're in partnership with the Recreation District and this, with Pathfinder Park. My question to you is your lottery Conservation Trust Fund budget. I don't know if Ms. Bryant can pull that up and show it or not, but you have a balance roughly of $500,000 in that fund, and I was wondering what the 1, 3, or 5-year plan is for development in your parks or in support of trails in our county with some of that money. The nice thing about it, it doesn't have to compete with any other funding. It has limitations on how it can be used, but I was wondering if the commission has a plan for that significant balance in that fund, and if you do, have you put that down in writing, or where can the public see that?
Well, go ahead.
We do have a plan. It's not in writing at this moment in time. Much of our CTF funding over the past few years, at least since I became a commissioner, has been spent in Pathfinder Park on utilities, on infrastructure, on setting up some of the things that are going to have to be there eventually for us to be able to do the building projects that someday will move the Fremont County Fair from the Canyon City Rodeo grounds out to Pathfinder Park. The remainder of the funding that is there, we have been looking at for years now as eventual matching funds for grants that we will be forced to go out and try to get to build some of those buildings. One of the things we spent some money on a couple of years ago was a master plan for those buildings. And in doing so, what we discovered is it's going to take about $12 million for build out of that particular park in order to obtain and place the buildings that we need to be able to actually move the entire fair out there, which is our ultimate goal. Needing that much cash on hand is not practical for the county, as I'm sure everyone would agree and admit. And so instead, we are trying to collect and save those funds to be able to use them as matching grants when the time comes.
And to follow up on that, we spent $80,000 on the design work for conceptual plans for all facilities of a new fairgrounds at Pathfinder Park. We spent some $79,000 to do the engineering work on the floodplain at Pathfinder Park so that we knew exactly what elevations those buildings would have to be constructed, part of the infrastructure that Commissioner Bell mentioned. And so the previous Board of Commissioners and this board has strived to continue to put dollars aside for the future, knowing that, and even in the discussion of that $12 million build out of facilities at Pathfinder Park, we prioritized in that plan that an event center would likely be the first building that would be constructed, and the multi-use livestock facility would be number 2. So basically those dollars have been held in reserve, and I guess as I prepare to leave this board, I would certainly encourage the future board to continue that trend. I would hate to see those dollars suddenly start to be spent down for the sake of other projects, only to put off the future of the potential facilities at Pathfinder Park, because when I came on the board in 2005, we adopted, as you know, a 20-year master plan, and here we are 12 years later, and we put in an 8-inch water line. We put in electrical services. We completed the development of the roundabout. We've done other infrastructure work at the arena, but it's just scratched the surface. Certainly not what you would like to be at in a 20-year plan. But I can guarantee you, if we don't maintain certain cash reserves in the Conservation Trust Fund, it'll be much further out than 20 years to go after matching grants or other funding solutions.
Well, there's also approximately $500,000 in a foundation funding, and I hope I get this terminology right. It came from wholesome tax credits, is that correct? And that's not in Fremont County funds, that's not in this budget. That's held separately, and it's designated for buildings for the fair out at Pathfinder Park. There's been a resolution to that in effect. So there's also those funds, and you put $500,000 of CTF funds, so you have roughly $1 million sitting right now. But as Commissioner Bell said, the build out's about $12 million if we do it, the whole thing. And so that's where we're at. And as you all know, my background with 8 years, I was on the recreation board on the trails and open spaces near and dear to my heart. So we've had interesting discussions on CTF funding, but we do the best we can with what we got. We spent $18,000 last year at the Ecology Park with the new entrance into the driveway and a few other improvements out there. So little at a time, we're making progress.
And I guess I would like to commend the board. You recently committed some funding from your, I'm assuming CTF, but we'll know soon, to the reconstruction of the Rouse Park pickleball courts. That's a tremendously popular new addition to our recreational opportunities in Canyon. It hits a lot of the baby boomers. It's very busy. And I understand that as what you're talking about, and very few of our agencies can afford to do capital projects without successful grant funding. The majority of that project was through a GROCO grant, but it was also contributions from the county, which we appreciate, at the district, the city, and also the school district. But I would encourage the board and future boards to consider the significant improvements to the trails within our county, as you spoke about earlier with the other gentleman. Thanks to the Fremont Adventure Recreation and the city of Canyon City, BLM, and the district, we will be opening some new trails in the South Canyon area, of which the county is a active partner in that project. But I would ask you to consider in this year's budget and future year's budget to budget some money towards matching funds for trail development, because Fremont County has the potential to have year-round trail use, and we see a lot of people coming in from the Front Range cities that get worse weather than we do, spending their time and their dollars here in our county for essentially free recreational opportunities. And so we only see trail development and improvement continuing to go on in our county. And I would encourage the board to consider future grant funding matches in your budget with that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I want to let everybody know that we're talking about Conservation Trust Funds. CTF funds is your lottery funds that come into different entities. These are very restricted on what we can spend. We just spent about an hour on the DA's budget. We can't use CTF funds to help with the DA budget. State of Colorado won't allow that. So just to let you know that we're talking about two completely different things.
Do it.
Anyone else to address this budget hearing? Hearing none, I'll close. Clarice?
As a newcomer to Fremont County, because I've only been here 15 years, I haven't been here my whole life, but I am a Colorado native. I earlier had asked if you had any additional funds, if you could give it to the Sheriff's Department, because he does need another deputy, I believe, to help with the drug situation that we have here. And living in Penrose, I've been very frustrated, as have many of the people living out there, because there's been a variety of things that the DA's office has not exactly gone the way we would have liked it to do. And Instead of being called Tom Ledoux, which is his name, I had nicknamed him Tom Ledon't, because he don't prosecute this and he doesn't prosecute that. And I understand that he does have budgetary problems on that. One of the things that we've been very frustrated with is the fact that he did not prosecute marijuana. And we have got a big marijuana problem out there as we see it, as the citizens of Penrose see it. So I do understand budgetary problems. My son sells uniforms to many law enforcement officers throughout the state, not in Fremont County, by the way. But I do know that those are expensive. Fremont County has been a training ground for years for officers that got trained down here and then went elsewhere where they got those little amenities such as their uniforms being paid for. So in defense of that, that is an important part in trying to retain officers that we've already spent money to train. So I do understand where you guys are at, but I see where the sheriff and the DA are at also. And the frustration of the citizens is what I'm speaking to. So please see if there's something that anybody can work out in this. I don't want to see us have a war down here, but it would be nice if we could have what we deem to be proper prosecution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Being no further comments, I'm going to close this budget hearing. And the first time in 12 years, the budget hearing lasted longer than 1 minute. Going to take a 5-minute recess and we'll resume the rest of this agenda.
No changing it right now.
Including mine.
30 seconds.
Yeah. But you know, and
Face the facts.
yeah, they're never gonna, you know, annex in or anything like that. I mean, it would take a major annexation.
Tonight's going to give an
That's good. That's good.
Call this meeting of the Fremont County Board of Commissioners back into session. We resume with new business item number 2, ratification of the chairman's signature on change orders for the jail's kitchen and laundry renovation. Chairman has already signed those, and I'll ask Sonny just to do a quick review.
So we have 3 additional change orders that came up over the last 2 weeks, and all 3 of those needed to be signed prior to this meeting to have the project continue to move forward. The first one is change order number 16, and it's in the amount of $17,490.32, and it's roof and drain rework and added roof drain in the laundry room. When they were up trying to get this piece of the project done, the state plumbing inspector required that these additional drain units be put in order to meet the current restrictions that he was putting in place. This change order does also have a 7 working day impact. So the new deadline for the construction is January 9th of 2017. So there is both financial and an extension of the dates. Change order number 17 is actually a decrease of $369, and it's changing the wall protection to Trex board. So that is a decrease to the to the contract price. And change order number 18 is in the amount of $1,115.46, and it's changing some fire alarm devices. So those are the 3 change orders, and like I said, in order to continue the project moving forward, the chairman has signed those, so we're asking for ratification of those signatures.
And the chair will entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we also are eager, as the sheriff is, to see this project continue to move forward and eventually be completed. I move to approve or to ratify the chairman's signature on change orders 16, 17, and 18, which, if my math is correct, results in an additional total of $18,236.78.
If the math is correct, I second it.
Motion and a second to ratify the chairman's signature in the 3 change orders for the jail renovation. Other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
To those of you who have been waiting for the other new business, we apologize that we've kept you in suspense, although it probably wasn't a lot of suspense, just maybe entertainment. Item number 3, a 2-lot minor subdivision, MS 16-002 for the Divine Acres subdivision. Michael Winey is representing.
Thanks,
Good morning.
And you got the pronunciation correct.
All right.
I'm glad to see you're all smiling.
For now.
The Planning and Zoning Department, working with Matt and the rest of his group there, was an absolute pleasure. They held my hand through this project and were a great guide, so I just want to mention that.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's a 5-acre parcel. We're splitting it into 2 parcels, approximately 2.1 and 2.9. The 2.1 is lot 2. It has an existing home on it. It has all of its infrastructure in place. So the lot 1 is the one that will become a single-family residence on that parcel. So it's a pretty low-impact project. It's basically we're adding 1 home. We've submitted our 12 to 18 inches of paperwork. So I believe we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's, and I think we're good to go. So if I can answer any questions for you.
Any questions of the applicant?
No.
No, thank you.
All right, Matt?
All right. The department did receive all of the necessary information, except that which is listed in the contingencies. I'll cover those right now. The first one, there's 5 items. The first one is a note on the plat from the fire department regarding a turnaround. There will be a requirement of fire apparatus turnaround for proposed home on lot 1, and that was requested from the fire department. Number 2 is an updated title commitment within 60 days of the recording of the plat. Number 3 is information to enable the department to compute addresses. Number 4 is closure sheets for each lot. And number 5 is basically a note on the plat for a driveway access permit that will be required at the time of development of lot 1. We will state that this property is located within the Fremont County Sanitation District. Because of the nature of the terrain, the Sanitation District did waive the requirement for connecting to a public sewer. They are going to be allowed to do a septic system on the property. To tie into the public sewer, they would have to go down a very steep slope to the Riverwalk down below to the north to try to tie into it. So that was waived by the sewer department. They do have all of the other necessary utilities. They did receive approval from the city for their water. So there's really no outstanding issues on this property.
All right, any questions for Matt?
And that was 5 contingencies, is that right, Matt?
Correct.
Yeah.
Just for the public's information, I failed to mention that this particular parcel is located in the northeast corner of Grand and Willow in Lincoln Park. All right, what's the board's wishes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve MS 16-002 with the 5 contingencies that Matt specified.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the 2-lot minor subdivision, MS 16-002, with the 5 contingencies as outlined. Other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Item number 4, OPC 14-010, Maggie's Farm. Modification of optional premises cultivation license to allow placement and use of 12 metal storage containers for secure plant drying areas. Niles Hyder represents Maggie's Farm. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Tell us what you're doing or what already has been done.
We would like to request approval of a modification of premises for 12 steel storage containers that will fall within inside of our secured area.
Okay, any questions of the applicant?
No, not this time.
Matt?
All right, the application was submitted to the department. All of the necessary requirements were submitted except those noted under the contingency items. Review of the site did find everything in conformance of the application. Let me just read through the contingency items. And a lot of these they have submitted to us, but they are still part of the approval since they were submitted after the review was done. Proof of notification from for the fire department and law enforcement that was sent to the agencies. Copy of the current Colorado State OPC licenses were submitted to our office as well. Proof that all state regulations have been satisfied, and we did receive letters from the state approving their modification, so there's not any issues with that. Proof of valid occupational licenses for all employees. Information concerning which medical marijuana centers associated with the businesses has been provided, and the expired ones have been provided as well. And then the department is requiring a drainage report from a licensed Colorado engineer providing the necessary information as required in the Fremont County Subdivision and Development Regulations. And they do have an engineer working on that at this time, so we are expecting that soon from them. We did review the site. We went out with code enforcement. The site is very clean, well kept, managed very adequately. They do run a good site there, so.
I just have a quick question. Then the contingencies that you went over, there's only one left, is that correct? Item 6?
There's only one left, but you can just approve it with all of them, and then we'll just approve it in our office with everything in the file.
Okay.
So how many of these storage containers were already in place prior to application for modification?
All of them were in place at the time.
So did it come to the department's attention, or how did it come about?
It came about by them submitting their application for modification. They must have realized it when they submitted for the state, is my assumption, that they needed to submit to the county as well for modification. So they did supply all the paperwork and everything necessary for that modification. Everything is built to their specifications, and everything is running as it is said.
Is that a correct assessment?
Yes, sir.
So if you seek further modifications, what will your process be?
We will definitely make sure we get approval from you prior to any movement at all on our behalf.
Okay. All right.
I would just take note real quickly that because you're located so far out away from everyone and everything, people really don't even know that you're there, it seems to me. And if that weren't the case, we would have had inquiries, if not outright complaints, from every neighbor that you ever thought about having when they started seeing containers going in out there. So I would say simply the fact that we received no notification from anyone that these were being placed out there basically is a testament to your chosen location and the fact that you are so far removed from the population, which is what we now are trying to do with the latest set of regulations that we did adopt. So.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant or for the department?
No questions. I have a motion.
Okay.
Move to approve OPC 14-010 Maggie's Farm 2016 modification with the 6 contingency items as outlined by Mr. Koch.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the modification for Maggie's Farm with the contingencies as detailed. Other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consideration to adopt Heritage Commission bylaws. Commissioner Payne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the Heritage Commission has been wanting for some time to update these bylaws, and the biggest issue was on membership. They had people in the previous bylaws where they had to be from either education or tourism or from one city or another. It made it very difficult to get people to get onto this Heritage Commission. They wanted to make it a little bit simpler. With County Attorney Miss Jackson's help, we got this rewritten, and so the biggest change is now that the composition will be 9 members. They'll be residents of Fremont County, and the membership will include at least one member from each of RE1 school district, RE2 school district, and RE3 school district, and the rest will be at-large membership. This will make it just so much simpler, and that's the gist of it right there. And with that, I make a motion that we approve the adoption of the Heritage Commission bylaws.
Second.
All right, I have a motion, a second, to approve the adoption of the changes to the Heritage Commission bylaws. Or is this the first time there's actually formally approved?
It's been approved, but for whatever odd reason, it was never signed. So
Okay, so then once these are adopted, will the existing membership be appropriately identified as representative of those three areas and at-large members then?
they will be,
All right.
yes.
Other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6, consideration of an agreement between Fremont County and the Royal Gorge Dinosaur Experience concerning personal property tax incentive credits. Dave Reynolds represents Royal Gorge Dinosaur Experience, who basically came to us a year ago with a request of some sort of personal property tax incentives. And we discussed it, but we needed to get something finalized because with the assessor's valuation coming up here in the new year, we needed to have this formally in place. Did you want to address anything, Mr. Reynolds?
No, that's totally, I agree with you. I talked to the assessor's office. They have not completed their assessment yet, so I don't know how that's going to end up. But you're right, it's something we needed to do. Ms. Jackson has been working on a formal agreement, of which I have a copy, and I think you also have a copy. So that is what we're asking, if you could move forward on that agreement, as we previously discussed.
Okay, does anyone wish to address just a very quick overview as to the length of term and the incentives? I think it's also tied to jobs, right?
My computer just died.
No.
I don't actually have that in front of me. I'm familiar with it, but as far as being very specific with the years and numbers, I don't have access to that. I don't trust my memory quite to that extent.
I think don't we go out 12 years? Is what I have.
Depends on the attendance. It's tied to attendance.
And it's tied to attendance.
Yeah, if the attendance is near, not
Okay.
really where we want it to be, it could be
County
12
Attorney
years.
Jackson.
All right. The incentives are tied to visitors during a 12-month period that's probably going to be November 1st to November 1st, but that can be adjusted based on what the parties want. The amount of the tax incentive is on personal property only, not personal and real. In years 1 through 5, 100% of business personal property tax can be abated or rebated back to the Dinosaur Museum if this company is able to certify 100,000 visitors for 1 or more years in years 1 through 5. Hang on, the incentive is 100%. If they certify 100,000 visitors in years 1 through 5, then in years 6 and 7, it would be 75% of business personal property tax. In years 8 and 9, it would be 50%. And year 10 would be 25%, and then it would terminate at the end of year 10. Now, there are other calculations depending on the amount of certified visitors in the first 5 years. So it's 100% of the tax in the first 5 years, and then it incrementally will decline in the second 5 years of the incentive. If that's not clear, I can restate it another way. I got a little confused when I'm reading it and trying to explain it at the same time.
I think that is sufficient to indicate, and we initiated this conversation basically in line with what previous Board of Commissioners did back in 2005 and 2006 for Wholesome, a 10-year tax credit incentive for Wholesome's new cement plant. And you know, when it comes to economic development, Board of County Commissioners has limited opportunities to assist new business, but given the size of those dinosaurs up on the hill, I think one can drive by and realize it was a considerable investment, and hopefully the early indications of attendance will reflect that this was a worthy venture by the Reynolds family to pursue, and that if this bit of economic incentive the county can offer furthers that venture, then that's good news.
Well, we certainly would appreciate anything that you can do. This particular, I can tell you that the money that we'll not have to spend on personal property tax will end up going either for marketing or more animals or more attractions, because we have a long list of things we would love to do if we can make enough money to do it. And so this will not be going back into our pockets, but back into the structure as a whole. And it will be generating more sales tax for next year.
I was going to say, just take some of that savings and sell more T-shirts and toy dinosaurs.
Well, we've been doing a lot of that, that's for sure.
All right.
I have actually been one of those people up there buying, because I took my grandkids up there, and
Well, we're gonna
they
have
loved it.
Kind of a Christmas sale.
They
so
loved
we
it.
can come up with like Christmas
Good to
presents.
know.
Well-
I would echo what Commissioner Norton said about the county's hands are pretty tied when it comes to offering economic incentives. It's a question that we're asked very often, and the answer is basically the only thing that we can do is to offer business personal property tax incentives. So that's what we're doing here. And we just continue to wish all of you the very best of luck up there, because what's good for you is good for the county as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
You bet. I just wanted to add that this is pretty easy, is because, you know, about a year ago, that was just nothing but dirt up there, and
Well, it had some horses on
it
it.
had a few horses, but, you know, we weren't getting anything from personal property tax up there. So, you know, if we can give you some breaks here and then in the future you get established, it's just a win-win for everybody. But I just want to let everybody know that this is just for the county. We're actually third in line on mill levy behind school district and fire district. And so those are the two bigger players as far as mill levy goes. So this is just Fremont County. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this agreement between Fremont County and the Royal Gorge Dinosaur Experience concerning personal property tax incentive credits.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agreement between Fremont County and the Royal Gorge Dinosaur Experience on the personal property tax credits. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And item number 7, finally, consideration to adopt a county equal employment opportunity plan. Sunny.
Good morning again.
Again, it's barely morning.
Almost good afternoon. So for one of our grants specifically, the county is required to have an equal employment opportunity plan. With a few changes in the administration level this year, when the grant came up for renewal, we realized that we did not have such plan. So we are required to certify stating that we do have it. So Tammy Childs has put together this plan. It basically states that Fremont County will practice equal opportunity employment, and there's some things that are in place to where the Human Resource Department would actually then track our employment numbers to make sure that we are complying with this plan, going through the hiring process and employment in general. So that's what is before you, is adoption of the plan, and then that way we can certify that we have the plan. So.
Okay.
Okay.
One note that I would make, Mr. Chair, is that although we have never had a formal plan in writing, all of the theories that are prescribed here actually are already in place here in Fremont County. We make it our business to see to it that we do operate equal employment here within Fremont County. So the step we're taking today is simply to finalize that. So with that, I move to approve or to adopt the county's equal employment opportunity plan.
Second.
Motion and a second to formally adopt a county equal employment opportunity plan, and other discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye.
Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Hour having reached 12 noon, there being no further business to come before this board, we stand adjourned.
I'm getting sick. I have this tickle that it won't go away. I mean, I've tried mints, I've tried cough drops. I'm gonna have to get zinc. I've been drinking water, and it's just not going away.
No, you wish you were down with the canvas.
Well, I've already been thrown by one seed down my throat.
You can't.